As always, great to have Governor John Bel Edwards joining us for a few minutes. Governor, how are you today? Thank you for taking time.
Well, I'm doing very well, thank you, and I hope the phones work a little better this time. I know last time it was a little frustrating.
Let's get right to it. Hell of a day yesterday. Tell us about your trip to New Orleans and what you saw and what you've done.
Yeah, well, first of all, it wasn't just New Orleans. It was numerous places around the state, at least 6 different parishes, and at least 7 confirmed touchdowns. And with tornadoes, and I'm going to get a more complete picture shortly. But we did issue a statewide declaration of emergency because of all the tornado activity and the damage. Clearly, the worst of it was in New Orleans East, where a very, very powerful, and in fact, an abnormally powerful tornado for this far south. It hit down around Shepman-Tour Highway, and it really danced around on both sides of the highway for a long stretch and really destroyed a lot of homes, businesses, churches, damaged some schools, knocked down power lines, and I mean, it looks like a war zone. Yeah. I will tell you that the amazing thing to me, especially when you see it from the helicopter, nobody lost their lives, and I attribute that to people doing what they were supposed to once they got their alerts, and the alert system is better than ever because of the alerts that go directly to cell phones. And I talked to a number of individuals yesterday who were able to take advantage of just a couple of minutes' notice and get to safety. But we have a lot of work to do to recover from this. FEMA's on the ground already working with us to do damage assessments. I do believe, based on what I saw yesterday, we will meet the federal criteria for a presidential declaration.
What can folks from this way do? I know we all help each other. What's best for us to do?
Well, at this point in time, first I always say pray, because you got a lot of people whose lives are upside down. Even though nobody lost their lives, we did have some people who were very seriously hurt, including a lady who was in a car that was hit by the tornado, and she lost her arm, and she was 26 weeks pregnant. And so that's the most serious of the injuries that I know about. But I will be getting back with the mayor this morning and the folks from GOSEP. I will tell you that Red Cross is working very hard down in that area. So what immediately comes to mind, if people can make a contribution to Red Cross for what they're doing down to shelter and feed people, provide different things that they need to get back in their homes. And of course, a lot of these people don't have a home to go back to, and so we're going to be looking for shelter options for them.
Mr. John Bel, special session like deja vu all over again.
Yes, sir. Third special session in a little over a year. You're exactly right.
Tell us about this one. What are you hoping for? If you know, as a politician, and I mean that in a respectful way, if it's about negotiation and doing deals, etc., and you could come away with, say, 60, 70, 75, 80% of what you want going in, what would you be happy with?
Well, first of all, session runs from the 13th to the 22nd. It's going to be short. It'll be focused. We're not asking for revenue, either in taxes or in fees. I am asking that we use the one-third balance available to us in the Budget Stabilization Fund. That's about $120 million.
That's that's the rainy day fund, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's known as the rainy day fund. It's technically the Budget Stabilization Fund, and it exists for precisely this purpose. When you find yourselves in a jam, there is an account from which you can draw. You can never deplete it, but you can get a third of it and in order to put towards the budget and stabilize the situation. The reason that's so important in this case is this is not the first deficit that we saw for this year. This deficit of $304 million is for the current mid-year. In December, we adjusted the budget to handle a $313 million deficit from last year that got rolled forward, recognized as debt. We paid it. The other thing I'd like to remind you all is our state agency spent $246 million responding to the flood, and we have not been reimbursed that. So that creates a tremendous cash flow challenge. And then finally, we started the year. The budget that we started with already was $326 million short on what we needed just to do a continuation budget. So it's a tough situation. The rainy day fund is very important if we're going to avoid really deep cuts to areas that we don't want to cut. And when I say we, I think it's just about across the board. We don't want to cut waivers. We don't want to cut higher education. I know that the Department of Corrections and Children and Family Services cannot withstand a cut right now. And anything that comes out of the Department of Health has to be manageable with respect to our partner hospitals. After our session ended in June, we renegotiated every partnership deal at a savings to the state. And if we can't go back at them right now with a big cut and expect them to be able to handle that.
Let's talk about that audit, though, because that's troubling to me and to others regarding the health department. $250 million in erroneous reports with the federal government, if I'm correct. Didn't track the spending of $73 million on a nutrition program. My point as a taxpayer is, could this be the only state agency that has money troubles, or is this the only one we discovered? Does that worry you?
Well, I worry about all of those things, but I would point out that the $250 million was an accounting error where there was $250 million that was erroneously reported as having been spent in one part of the LBH, but then the other part showed a balance of $250 million. So it actually washed, and no money is owed to anybody. But, Erin, I would point this out to you because it didn't come across in the audit or in the news coverage around it. Almost all of those activities that were improper happened before my administration.
Sure.
And at this point, we're being held up as a best practice nationally, for example, for how we handle the nutritional side. The fix that we put in since I came into office is being held up and is shown to states across the country as to how they should run their departments of health, or whichever department they actually have that manages that program. So I'm always concerned about audit findings, but the negative findings in that audit, almost without exception, occurred before I was governor.